do you fly upside down? That'll work. Hello there, folks, and welcome to another episode of Crazy Thoughts. Happy Halloween, by the way. Always great to have a day off on this beautiful federal holiday. Yep. And a tip for anyone who wants to do a similar series where they talk about their favorite games. You can film your getup in a way that makes it look like you're having a mental breakdown. Just don't make it too obvious. Welcome to Crazy Thoughts, where we talk about the video games that I have played in our current hellscape in a succinct, critical manner. Anyway, again, welcome to another episode of Crazy Thoughts, where we talk about the video games that I have played in our current hellscape in a succinct, critical manner. 2025 continues to be a very dismal year for me, you, and likely many others, but at the very least the games have been generally pretty good, and I've been playing a lot of them as of late. Although this did take a little bit longer for me to get out than I wanted to, because, yeah. Anyway, what we're going to be focusing on today is another round of me trying to clear out my PS2 backlog. We do have some other games mixed in, including another multiplayer game from this year that I found rather interesting. So let's just cut to the chase and start dishing out some crazy thoughts. And to start, we have a seminal, all-time, no doubt classic on our hands. Okay, let's cleanse ourselves of that with a good game by returning to an old favorite on this show. The first two Hot Shots games were pretty neat golfing titles that I had plenty of fun with, even though they shot up in difficulty way too quickly. And the PS4 entry ended up becoming one of my favorite golf games of all time. Yes, it was that good. Coincidentally, we Hotshotters got some good news in this miserable year, as we finally got another Hot Shots golf game. It was handled by Bamco of all companies, but hey, their anime division made Birdie Wing, so it's not entirely unheard of. And it looks fun enough to me. Reviews seem to indicate that it's okay. There was a bit of a tree texture controversy, but it sounded really odd to me from the get-go, in case you couldn't tell. And learning that it might have actually just been someone not understanding what Speedtree is, I think the pitchforks can be put down for now. The game's announcement earlier this year put me in a Hot Shots golf mood, so why not take an 18-hole trip back to this franchise with the first entry on 6th generation consoles. Hot Shots Golf 3 was released in the middle of 2001 within Japan and spring 2002 within America, although not in Europe, and it's the only game in the series that's not been released there. 3 is also the highest rated title in the series, so yep, got a lot of expectations waiting to be met, and having gone through it, pretty good. It's funny, I was kind of expecting a revolutionary change with the series going forward after 2 introduced the more vibrant personalities and the caddy system, but well, beyond the generational upgrade in visuals, it's pretty much the same old Hot Shots Golf. You have your 3-click shot system, a number of courses to play on, a versus mode to face off against and unlock characters, a tournament mode where you can use those characters to win all of the trophies in the world. Pretty standard stuff. One of those characters actually being based on an actual golfer, which I couldn't tell. I thought it was just some southern stereotype with a weird mullet. Why do you have that hairstyle, dude? This is the 80s. With that in mind, the visual upgrade did bring the series closer to the type of golf game that I'm more inclined to like, i.e. one with better physics and controls. So perhaps that's why I managed to stick through the tournaments this time around and actually get all those trophies. Yep, I'm a pretty big hot shot in this golfing world. And if y'all hot shot golfers want some hot shot tips on how to be like me, just go with the Spanish guy, and if it gets too hard, try someone else. Maybe the Matrix-looking motherfuckers, I don't know. Can't really say that strategy works as well for the versus mode. As per usual, every match slowly devolves into a matter of waiting for the CPU to fuck up, and you not fucking up too much. And even then, those assholes will pull out a miracle chip and eagle out of nowhere to ruin all that effort. Like, at this point, I am begging for an easier way to quit out of a match besides just resetting the whole console, but I guess them's the breaks. The ball breaks, that is. There's some Hot Shots golf humor for y'all.
Wrong sport, jackass.
Overall, though, HSG3 is a solid golf game. I really hope that we're going to be on an upwards trajectory from here on out, and also hoping for Jak and Ratchet to beat us to death with clubs. Regular Crazy Thoughts viewers will know that I pledged to myself to go through every single entry in the Megami Tensei franchise that I could in order, because I'm an idiot and I didn't realize what an immense undertaking that would end up being. Different show, same story. However, we have finally reached the first game in the series that people actually kind of sort of care about, Shin Megami Tensei. This was released for the Super Famicom in 1992, with most of the same crew from DDS2 returning, and as they put it themselves, SMT is a bit of a semi-remake of DDS2. While it was nice to see the series' roots, considering neither of the Famicom games have seen a modern re-release, I think it's something that they can get away with, because this is where the series truly kicked off and from where all of its ilk draws from. And it's still popular to this day if its innumerable re-releases are of any indication. It's also one of the earliest games in the series to get an English fan translation, although it did see stateside in 2014 with the localization of the iOS version. How that came about is a pretty interesting story, but given my options, I decided to stick with the OG Super Famicom. I'll admit, I'm biased towards this generation. I grew up playing a SNES console in my early years, after all, so don't be too surprised if I ended up enjoying this one more than the last two. I did. Again, I'm biased, but I found the game immediately more appealing visually and thematically and narratively. Like, you start out with your soon-to-be-named character going through a trippy dream sequence where you also get introduced to other people who may or may not be part of your dreamscape before your mom wakes you up to put you on an errand run in downtown Tokyo. I'm not saying the previous games couldn't have pulled off an introduction like that, but sure makes for a good first impression. And wouldn't you know it, the game felt a lot easier to navigate than the Famicom titles, thanks to better detailed environments and a greater abundance of NPCs. I mean, again, I don't doubt that if I were more focused and determined to avoid guides with the first two, that I would have gone through them just fine, except maybe that one part in the first game where if you break a crystal, you can't wake a lady up and you softlock yourself. I think that's how it went. But again, bias. So yeah, this is all nice and good until demons start showing up and start wrecking shit throughout the city. I mean, you did get an email with one of those demon summoning programs. I'm sure we've gotten one of those once in our lives. But, I don't know, how was I supposed to know that this was gonna happen? What am I, a demon summoner? I can't do this anymore. After this, the story will continue to ramp up and go in the direction of DDS2, so let's just move on to the gameplay, which hasn't changed too much despite the 16-bit visuals. It's still the same dungeon-crawling, turn-based combat, demon recruiting, and fusion shindig from the last two games, with some new demons mixed in, and some neat quality-of-life inclusions like the Demon Compendium. It's like a built-in Pokédex before that even existed, so that means no more using fandom to find out which magic attacks work best on which demons. This thing has it all. Oh. Well, never mind that. It's an effective mashup even with the new Shin. I mean, it's always glorious to just eviscerate foes with a variety of spells and attacks and guns at your disposal, and I fucking love these demon designs. That excitement only lasts for so long, though, and I really wish that they tank the encounter rate just a tad so I don't go 2 steps in the overworld without encountering another imp Thankfully, this is where the negotiation system comes in very handy, and I got wholly invested with it this time around. Once you figure out the dialogue patterns, you can utilize these conversations to net your party a fuck ton of money and items, and if you're dealing with a particularly annoying foe, you can just recruit them so you don't have to fight them anymore, and their friends will shower you with more presents. This works in tandem with the moral themes and choices that we saw a bit of in the last game, where you can align your player characters with the chaos function, the law function, or just say fuck off to both of them and go your own path. Here in SMT, that system is more proactive and prescient, and unlike DDS2, you're not locked off from the best ending if you do something like kill a frog or something like that. Whatever path you go down will determine which demons you can recruit or obtain through fusion, and whatever choices you make will give you influence for either faction. Yes, there are still choices that will give you a heavy amount of influence for either side, but you can also just make little choices here and there, or even give each faction a little bit of dough to receive certain benefits and influence in that manner. It's a system that doesn't exactly avoid the problem of future moral choice systems where the story doesn't exactly change much overall, but seeing this implemented in an early 90s SNES game with this much complexity is quite impressive. In case you're curious, I went for Chaos. I didn't like the way that Thor was looking at me. And I really liked what that samurai guy was doing. It kind of reminds me of another Japanese coup from back in the day, but I can't remember the guy who tried to pull that off and failed horribly. It'll come to me eventually. As for any additional gripes, there were one or two instances where it felt like I was stumbling upon the next plot point or battle by accident, like with that Alice girl, or in one very frustrating moment, I was stuck wandering between two different jail cells in two different facilities, and one of the bosses that I was supposed to be fighting in order to do anything with those in those jail cells just would not bite no matter how many times I talked to them. I just could not figure out what the hell I was supposed to do, so I looked it up, and it turns out I got one of the required items too early, and getting rid of it triggered the boss fight. Why? Grumbles aside, this is easily the best Megami Tensei game of the three that I have gone through so far, and probably the one that I'm most likely to replay as well, so I can just kill all of those demons and angels and just let this world see peace. I think I might go for the PlayStation version next time, or even check out that iOS rendition to see how well Atlus's localization held up. Oh yeah, fair warning, we're gonna have to go down that route earlier than y'all might expect. Like I said, I'm an idiot. Okay, back to the PS2 backlog with the first two Jak and Daxter games. I've been working backwards with Naughty Dog's catalog, and I finally got a hold of all the Crash PS1 games earlier this year. I was trying to point to them, but they're a little bit high up here for me to reach. Can you see the sweat stain? Also, this ain't a PS1 backlog, so stand down, Crashers. We'll get to you some other time. As with the Ratchet & Clank series, I did not grow up with this highly regarded Sony platformer franchise. And the only thing I've known about it up until many years ago was that Storm Dane thought that they were awesome. And they were not to be confused with Dexter because he hates that show. Don't look at me, that was him saying it, not me. Since then, within the circles that I run at least, there seems to be a bit of a mixed reaction to Jak and Daxter, to the point where I've heard the hottest of takes in that the Kart spin-off is actually the best one.
Seriously?
I mean, maybe that isn't much of a hot take outside my circle, but I just can't possibly imagine that that could be the case. I mean, after all, the first entry is the 51st highest rated PS2 game on Metacritic, and it won a Best Platformer for the PS2 Game Awards with IGN. It's gotta count for something. With this in mind, I gave Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy the good old college try. And I like it. I like it a lot. Fucking kart racer's better than this. Yeah, that's complete bullshit. Truth be told, this was my second attempt at playing Precursor Land. My first try was hampered with distractions, and me also just having trouble navigating the world for some reason. Seriously, I don't know why. It just felt like I was lost half of the time, and maybe I just need to be in a different frame of mind or something. So naturally, the second attempt came a year later, where even more distractions were occurring. Well, at least this run was more successful. Jak and Daxter has you playing as Dax and Jakter in a world that runs on a mystic substance called R.E.P.O. On a late-night boat ride to a forbidden island, the duo find out that evil is afoot. But Daxter's clumsy ass has him fall into a pit of dark eco and turning him into this Otzel thing. With the help of the village sage and his perky mechanic daughter, Jackie and Daxeline travel this world in search of another sage to reverse Daxter's curse and help protect the whole world from this evil. Gameplay-wise, it's your basic 3D platformer where you have your hub worlds and other worlds and a bunch of collectibles for collecting in between. What Jak and Daxter brings to this table is how said world is presented as one cohesive whole, rather than being separated by paintings or puzzle doors, complete with as few loading screens as possible, if any. This might be partly why I found it so daunting at first, but I did find myself embracing the structure on that second attempt, like really enjoying the freedom of navigation that it offered, and learning just how simple it all was. I mean, beyond some light combat, some vehicle sections, and some cool eco-magic powers, the focus is on the platforming, which I loved. Every one of Jak's movements and jumps are fine-tuned and controlled so smoothly. I love forward jumping through each world, rummaging about. It's just so much fun. I had a blast 100%ing this thing, unlike another 3D platformer that I'd actually played through my childhood, and we've covered on this show. Still upset at what a disappointment that was. In fact, if Young even had played this growing up, Jak and Daxter would have become one of his favorite platformers. Like, I have seen some folks scoffing at the game's simplicity, but I don't know, what's so wrong with simplicity? I tend to like platformers that can keep their mechanics as basic and as fun as possible without overcomplications or doing so in a manner that becomes too gimmicky, or in a way that doesn't complement the flow of the level design. For example, Spyro 1 is my favorite Spyro game simply because of its simple focus on the simple platforming and collectathoning. So when they introduced those annoying minigames in the sequels, I just found them less enjoyable, even in the remakes. That said, Jak and Daxter wasn't totally immune to annoying minigames, or annoying bosses with annoying hit detection for that matter, but I could tolerate it. What I had the most trouble tolerating was the Otzel boy here. Maybe that also contributed to me dropping the game on the first attempt. I could not stand this furry prick and his little quips and comments every time Jak meets his doom. He sounds like Nathan Lane with a head cold. In fact, he's just Timon if he weren't funny. Jak being your typical silent protagonist means that someone had to pick up the slack, but as you can tell, this mindset didn't change a full calendar year later. Although I did get used to his antics eventually. I just hope that they dope him up on whatever this world's equivalent to Valium is in the next few games. Other than those complaints, Jak Dax is a great time, and I'm very much looking forward to how the series evolves with its established gameplay and vibe in Jak II. Yukio Mishima, that's who it was. Okay, let's address the Otzel in the room here. Jak II came out a few years after Jak I, and this is the one that has the reputation in my circle, and likely outside of it too. But that's a bit odd, you might be saying. Jak II still has plenty of fans. It was critically acclaimed upon launch, and was nominated for as many accolades as the first game, so what's the problem? Like, at some point you just gotta drown out the snide comments and vicious remarks to find out what exactly the dealio is by playing the game yourself. And boy, did I find out, because this is a weird one, fellas, and do I have a lot to say about it. Story-wise, we're following up on the 100% endgame stinger of Jak I, where the crew are messing around with a new artifact that they discovered, and in doing so, they get sucked into a portal, separated from one another, and transported to another world. Jak and Dax land in a big metropolis called Haven City, and Barely 2 minutes after landing, Jak gets arrested and imprisoned by the dickhead military running the place, leaving Daxter all by himself to figure out how to rescue him. Now, before I, or you, or really anyone playing this gets a chance to process what just happened, 2 whole years pass, and during that time, Jak got experimented on with a bunch of dark eco, so he's not doing the best. Daxter does achieve his goal of rescuing Jak off, though, who thanks him with his actual first spoken words. Good morning. Good morning, Jak. I made eggs. Sorry, I discovered this gift during my playthrough, and I've been using it non-stop since. Let's just play the actual line.
I'm gonna kill Praxis!
Praxis is the leader of the military folk I mentioned earlier, who kidnapped Jax and stuff, and yeah, if I had been experimented on for 730 straight days, I'd be a little peeved too, but this shift in tone comes at you right away, don't it? I'll admit I was prepared for it, as well as the subsequent increase in PG-rated profanity. What I was not prepared for was the stark difference in gameplay. Following Jak's rescue, the duo end up going around the bustling and cop-infested Haven City by either running very slowly or taking any available vehicle, regardless of whether or not it was already in use, meeting up with a vibrant cast of misfits who all give the pair a bunch of shit for existing, and a bunch of assignments in and out of town that feature a heavy emphasis on close combat and ranged weaponry, all to fulfill Jak's promise of getting revenge on the people who wronged him. Sound familiar? While the platforming is still mixed into Jak II's missions in some capacity, the introduction of guns into the Jak and Dax formula does strike a little bit of the other platforming duo we've covered here before, but that's not what I'm referring to. Nope, as Naughty Dog proudly stated themselves, GTA 3 and its runaway success, coming just a few months after the Jak and Dax had been released, served as the true inspiration for this sequel going into edgy open-world gun mode. As such, it dates Jak II even harder to this specific era than the first game did to its own era, and having played GTA 3, the comparisons are inevitable. I will try to keep them to a minimum, if only because GTA 3 is about as dated, but I will bring one to the forefront: the open world. Limited as it may be compared to future titles, GTA 3 still lets you do the crazy criminal thing of stealing any cars, causing any destruction, mowing down any NPCs while emulating the feel of a thriving urban environment and having some semblance of fun while doing it. By contrast, Jak II's glorified hub world is very static. Like, you'd think with Jak being a fugitive and all, it would make the guards more alert of him, and really, they don't give a shit what you do unless you attack them in some way or kill a civilian in front of them, and even then, that's really inconsistent. The world itself is also somehow too large and too tight to move around in at the same time, so I never found myself wanting to go around and just wreak havoc for the sake of it. As for the story taking place in this world, since there is a bit of a grander focus on it, it's okay. Jak's newfound moodiness doesn't do him any favors with his character, and the other characters are your typical scumbags and pests and rebels who are about as one note, so color me surprised that I found myself appreciating Daxter's shenanigans this time around. He's still an annoying little shit, but he works better among all these other annoying little shits to help offset the darker tone of the narrative. But seriously, any game with both Clancy Brown and Phil LaMarr in it is worth going through in my books. Especially lower register Phil LaMarr. Smooth. Lastly, there are the missions and the combat within those missions. And, well, to make a separate comparison from GTA 3, the way that Jak handles combat sure does feel a lot like Ratchet 1. Where the shooting works okay, decent enough, but there's just not enough oomph to it, and somehow the auto-aim is wonkier. Hand-to-hand combat does get a bit of a boost thanks to Jak's new dark eco powers, and they're pretty useful when something like the shotgun's just not offering a quick solution to an encounter. But as for the missions themselves, again, fine. Some of them actually being pretty good, like the ones outside the main city that have those puzzle challenges, but shockingly, I enjoyed the ones where you have Jak platform around the most. Now, I may be coming off more negative than I am with the first game, and I'm sure you can understand why, but halfway through my run-through, I realized I was actually kind of grooving with Jak II. I mean, it actually does have a similar rhythm that one could get into when playing GTA. Like, you talk to someone, you navigate to the mission, you do the mission, you maybe do a side mission or two afterwards, like a race through the rings, or getting the Precursor orbs before time runs out. Oh yeah, those were the collectibles in the first game, and now they're no longer necessary for progress. They're relegated to just being rare collectibles spread throughout the hidden spots in the game map and in individual levels. It's kind of like the hidden packages within GTA 3. Anyway, yeah, Jak II is not too bad for what it's doing. Up to a point. Jak II is not an easy game. There are a number of missions that I can count on both hands that prove this, like whenever escorts are involved, or whenever I have to use that goddamn mech, or that fucking hoverboard. Oh god. And after a while, that difficulty feels less organically occurring and tied to things like having only 4 hit points, and the generally awkward balance of ammunition and health pickups with all those boxes. Oh, and really, really iffy checkpoints. Yes, Naughty Dog did the smart thing of avoiding that little complication that GTA had up until GTA 5. The problem is, the placement of those checkpoints feels completely random. Some cutscenes will sometimes trigger those checkpoints, while others don't, and some will put you back right around or near where you had died, whereas others will just send you all the way back to the start of the mission. And mission length doesn't seem to factor in most of the time. Like the Water Slums Onslaught, for example, it can be pretty exhausting, but it's kind of short, and there's at least a checkpoint after you've picked up the critical item within that mission. Later on, though, you have the Sewer Escort quest with Ed and Eddie here, and you have to protect them and wait for them to finish moving to their designated spots before things can trigger, and should Jak or any of these stupid idiots fall at any time, you gotta start the mission all over again. Fun. Complete bullshit like that wore me down after a while, and by the end boss, I was just kinda numb. Like, ooh, big old spooky spider. Ugh. And yet, I can't say that I hated Jak II. I wouldn't even say that I dislike it, or not nearly as much as the other people in my circle do. I did get very angry at it plenty of times, but, you know, just recounting those stupid missions and the various issues with my friends, I just found myself laughing at how bad they could get, and just how bad some of those gimmicks were. And I totally understand why people enjoy that shit too. It's easier to be kinder to games that you grew up on. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. But I mean, this game, if you played it at like 10 or 11 years old, this would be the coolest fucking game that you could have ever experienced. If you weren't already playing GTA 3. Like, all things considered, it's fine. It's okay. It's really weird. It's in dire need of polishing, from the combat to the mission structure to those vehicles not handling, that they're constantly on ice. And no, I didn't find myself compelled to 100% it like I did with the first game. Missed me with that. And yet I found it to be an admirable attempt at aping the GTA style for a younger audience. But a jarring shift in tone and gameplay is always going to split your audience if you don't manage to pull it off, and I don't think this one managed to do it. I did start playing Jak III during the recording of this, and that one does seem to do the formula a little bit better, so well, check out the next episode or future episode to see where I land on with that. I doubt it's gonna be worse than the fucking combat racing game.
Yo, what you looking at from local game? It's adrenaline coming from within. Fast and furious on the mic, just like a bike with a V12 engine. Well, if you're standing, all you'll see is the smoke. We don't joke.
Now for the obligatory yearly, semi-yearly, every 2 yearly, if I'm feeling pretty frisky, arcade racer. I almost didn't play one in general last year, certainly didn't do one for the show, but at the very end of it, I did sneak in a little try of Corvette for the PS2. And you see why I picked it up? Wasn't for the gameplay. Instead, I have another PS2 game that we can take a look at, Flatout. This one comes to us from a Finnish game developer, Bugbear Entertainment, who would go on to hone their arcade racer craft with a sequel, and eventually offer their guidance for a more high-profile racing title, as is the normal path for up-and-coming game devs. And while they may have stopped working on Flatout after 2, and you can tell, Bugbear are still around today, working on their Flatout's spiritual successor, Wreckfest. Today, though, we are dealing with the OG console release. We could have just easily gotten the PC version that the devs are still somehow doing updates for, and it goes for super cheap like every other week. But whatever, we are here now, we are racing, with the pull being a heavy emphasis on destruction and high-class physics to allow said destruction. Oh, and your driver getting thrown out of the windshield with a sliced bump of the hood. Okay, I'm not gonna let Jak II influence me and be mean right out of the gate. I enjoyed Flatout. Like, the driving feels smooth, as does drifting for once, and I really like the idea behind the focus on the destructive physics, as you can gain nitro for your nitro boost by causing damage to the environment. It's just satisfying to ram into a construction site and knock everything over, leaving the other racers in the dust. Unless their iffy AI hadn't already left them in a ditch, or had them doing donuts on the snow levels. When this gameplay loop works, it's a lot of fun. It's just... it doesn't always work. Like, the physics feel so integral to every object in this world and so sensitive to the touch that cars will end up bouncing off of everything far too easily. Like, to the point where running over traffic cones can result in your car doing a big old front flip. It's so strange. Like, you think they might have tweaked it just a little bit to make sure that that kind of thing wouldn't happen. Because when your biggest draw is so unreliable that I found myself actively avoiding destruction and getting through the race through pure speed and skill? Well, I don't know if I would call that a total failure, but I mean, it's still a problem if that was the developer's intention. And a nice compliment for the wonky physics are the poor traction on anything but asphalt. And no, I'm not expecting a drive on the frozen tundra to be a total breeze, so to speak, but turns just become nearly impossible to make at high speeds, and coincidentally, that's where the opponent AI suddenly turns into the
Juha Kankkunen.
There's at least a decent number of modes to work with here, like your standard career mode, where you win races or mini-games, you get cash, you get new cars and new upgrades, and I especially like how you trade in your car rather than retaining your old ones, and the game accounts for the price as well. It's a nice touch. It's like trading in your old car to get yourself the worst fucking thing you've ever seen. Oh yeah, minigames. They've got a physics engine, so of course there's going to be minigames. Demolition derby, racing on an infinite loop, and other state fair fun times like human darts, human long jump, human bowling. If the physics were more consistent, then they would be more fun. But it's funny enough on concept alone, so I'll give it a pass. Still, I can't help but feel a little disappointed with Flatout. I want to like this game a lot more than I actually do. It's just not fully clicking with me. Hell, like with the Jak games, I can see myself being very fond of Flatout had I grown up with it, but well, the lack of a PS2 or an Xbox, or just interest in getting a PC version to run on the old Windows XP device, kept that from happening. Hopefully the sequel makes up for those shortcomings. Oh yeah, there was a Wii version. Wonder what that looks like. Ooh. Yeah, this would have ruined my childhood. Given how long it's taken for me to get this out, I'm wondering if I should have just talked about Peak instead. It's okay. I have a bit more to say about our friend R.E.P.O here, anyway, which I got into well after my friends already did, as has been the case for many multiplayer games. But, let's get to the chase. R.E.P.O is another survival horror game where you and up to 5 co-workers are going around in your truck and entering abandoned areas that are procedurally generated to gather treasure, all while avoiding the spooky creatures that haunt these realms, whom you can avoid by cowering away in a corner or cupboard or other area thanks to the flexibility of your Muppet body. Or you can also take a more direct approach.
He didn't activate it. Oh, now he did. Why?
If this works.
If he shouldn't.
Holy shit.
Oh
that just worked.
Oh my
Okay.
god, it worked.
Okay. Okay.
And this is easier to pull off than in
Yeah,
Lethal
it
Company,
is.
I'll give it that.
God damn.
You can then use these treasures to buy upgrades and items that'll make further ventures more efficient, but yeah, it's pretty clear this is a lethal-like, as I'm sure this is what the new term is. However, there are some key differences beyond the Muppet-looking aesthetics that you see here. Firstly, progression is based on gathering said items and placing them in extraction zones throughout each area to reach a certain quota, and the number of quotas you have to meet increases as you go into more and more of these spooky places. The only total failure comes from you and your whole team from getting ganked by the aforementioned creatures and hazards around each area, and you can revive any lost souls at these extraction points so long as you have their heads. Lastly, R.E.P.O has an interesting feature that further separates it from its lethal ilk. You ready? Physics. Yes, you can carry those items around like you're playing with the Half-Life 2 gravity gun, but keep in mind, some of them require more than one person to carry, and try not to knock them around too much or else they'll break and lose all their value. It works fine, and the game does provide that highlight reel appeal that Lethal Company has in spades, but the more I play it, the more I found myself just wanting to go back to Lethal Company. Like, for as much of a survival horror game that this is in the vein of Lethal Company, I don't really find R.E.P.O to be that scary. The monsters here do have some cool designs and behavior, and the game can be kind of intense when you're the sole remaining member of your crew still gathering items, but I think the brighter visuals and the smaller environments don't really make as effective an atmosphere for the horror to thrive in. Furthermore, R.E.P.O is lacking in theme compared to the foreboding space capitalism featured in the world of Lethal Company and, well, the parodic YouTuber angle of last year's content warning, which I also didn't care for, but at least that had a decent concept going for it. I don't need tomes and tomes of lore to get me invested in a specific game or anything, but when your game's title is an acronym for Retrieve, Extract, and Profit Operation, and these Muppets are just going from building to building in their wonky-looking truck, like, just for the sake of it, and there's only so many hee-hee moments that I can experience before I get bored of the affair, and frankly, I think I've peaked with it. It's not bad. I'm not saying that it's a bad game or anything, and as with Lethal Company, the game is in early access, so this could change and evolve into something much grander. I'll probably just keep playing it for as long as my friends are interested too. I'm just not as enthused for this time. Besides, I think we've all moved on to peak.
Oh no!
And that'll do it for today's episode. And recording this got me hoarser than Gold Ship. I was going to talk about that game too, but I fucking hate gotchas. Regardless, we are finally at numero episode 10-0, and I'm more than happy to keep making these, and they keep the critic brain running, and I get to act like a total goof. I don't know when the next one's going to be, because I got that other project here that I'm still working on, and the rest of 2025 and beyond to handle. So, until next time, thank you all for watching, and as always... Oh yeah, Stephen Hawking was in that game too.